The practice of distance prayer for deceased Muslims, known as Salat al-Ghaib, began during the time of Prophet Muhammad. The first recorded instance of this practice was when the Prophet himself led the prayer for the Negus, Najashi, the king of Abyssinia, in 630 CE 12. The circumstances were as follows. Who started it? Prophet Muhammad initiated this practice. For whom it was performed? The prayer was offered for the Negus, the ruler of Abyssinia, modern-day Ethiopia. When it started, the prayer was performed on the day the Prophet received news of the Negus's death. Where it took place, the Prophet led his companions in prayer in Medina, while the Negus had died and was buried in Abyssinia, over 1,000 kilometers away. This event established the precedent for offering funeral prayers for Muslims who die in places where there are no other Muslims to pray for them. The Prophet's action demonstrated that it is permissible and appropriate to offer funeral prayers for deceased Muslims even when they are not physically present. The practice of Salat al-Ghaib, funeral prayer in absentia, has evolved over time since its inception during the time of Prophet Muhammad. Here's an overview of its development. Origins. The first recorded instance of Salat al-Ghaib was performed by Prophet Muhammad himself in 630 CE for the Negus, Najashi, the king of Abyssinia, who had secretly converted to Islam. This event established the precedent for offering funeral prayers for Muslims who die in places where there are no other Muslims to pray for them. Early Islamic period. Following the Prophet's example, the practice of Salat al-Ghaib became a topic of discussion among Islamic scholars. It was incorporated into the books of fiqh, Islamic jurisprudence, as a matter for debate and interpretation, scholarly opinions. Over time, different schools of Islamic thought developed varying opinions on the permissibility and conditions of Salat al-Ghaib. The Maliki school generally does not allow prayer for an absent person. The Dahiri, Hanbali, and Shafi'i schools hold that it is permissible to pray over a person in absentia too. Contemporary practice. In modern times, the practice of Salat al-Ghaib has been applied in various contexts. For prominent Muslim figures, in 1999, when Sheikh Ibn Baz passed away, millions of people participated in his funeral prayer, including those praying in absentia in mosques across Saudi Arabia. For Muslims who die in non-Muslim lands, the practice continues to be used for Muslims who pass away in areas where there may not be enough Muslims to perform the funeral prayer. In exceptional circumstances, some scholars allow Salat al-Ghaib when the body of the deceased is not found, such as in cases of drowning or natural disasters. However, it's important to note that the majority opinion among contemporary scholars is that the body of the deceased must be present for the prayer to be valid, with Salat al-Ghaib being an exception rather than the norm 7. The evolution of Salat al-Ghaib reflects the adaptability of Islamic practices to changing circumstances while maintaining a connection to its historical roots. Share, export, rewrite.